Good morning, everybody. Jeff Jackson, the forage fanatic. We're going to talk about cow chow today. So, a friend of mine gave me a call this week. I've been thinking about him quite a little bit lately. One of those guys out in Nebraska that's had the experience of some of those wildfires. Matter of fact, this has been on my mind for a couple of weeks since the Kansas and Oklahoma fires went through. But what can we do to help these guys get more cow grazing or cattle grazing, cow calf pair grazing days this summer? There's a few opportunities that have lent itself. Let's put it this way. So, first of all, some of the commodity prices maybe aren't the greatest right now. Some fertilizer prices just took a weird hike. So, it might not look the greatest or the most favorable to even put a row crop in on some of these acres. And we just had a lot of summer grazing that got burnt up. So, what can we do to get more cow grazing days and get going? So, here we are. It is the 20th of March right now. It's a fabulous Forage Friday. We're going to talk cow chow. So, I've asked a lot of smart people, asked a lot of smart cowboys, asked a lot of smart livestock people, and our consensus would be this. Right now, we need to get probably some oats in the ground. Maybe you do some peas and oats. The rate and the blend on those, there's probably people that know better than I do, especially for your local regions. So I'm not even going to address the blend rate, the pounds per acre, the fertility. You all are going to handle that locally with people in your area so that you get what works best for your moisture, your soil types, and all that good stuff. So, first thing would be is I think that some of the best opportunity is an oats crop. Now, let's also consider there could be some barley. There are some fantastic spring wheats out there. Matter of fact, we had a spring wheat, or still have. We have a spring wheat that we considered almost launching as a forage type variety. It is a fantastic yielder, lots of leaves, and a big leaf. And again, it's a spring crop that loves this kind of conditions to be planted and get going. So, spring wheat, uh, maybe some spring triticale, maybe it's some fall triticale that you don't want to have a head on it anyway. So, you just go plant it. But there's lots of stuff out there. Ask a few questions, check on some pricing and availability, and get a good spring crop started. But I think those cereal grains are probably your best bet, with oats being the leader. So let's get that in the ground and get it going. Now, one of the topics that Jake and I talked about yesterday was grazing through the summer on some warm season annuals and having the opportunity to graze through the winter, through the fall into winter, maybe even have a field that they leave standing to do some standing grazing. Some of you might be in an area that want to do some windrow grazing, or you'll stockpile, if you will. I know there have been some people that have went in with their swather midsummer, made windrows, leave it there for swath grazing and let it grow back up around it again. And now you have a really, really good stockpiled feed source out there. And by having that extra regrowth, the fiber digestibility and quality of the regrowth would probably be better than if you just left that crop go full season and mature as it stood there. So, a couple things to consider that way. But one thing that we talked about would be, can we do a little bit of diversity in there? I'm a sorghum guy. I'm a pearl millet guy. I love those crops. I see all of this stress tolerance and the benefits that they bring during the heat of the summer compared to some of the other pieces that get blended in that are cool season crops. So that doesn't really click for me to be a good source for summer annual grazing. But I'm one of these people. I have a drill with the small grass seed box on front. So I would put sorghum sedan grass in the big box, get it about an inch deep through the coulters, and take my pearl millet and trickle it in through the small seed box and just barely get it covered on top. So I get a couple of different warm season annuals out there to take advantage of maybe a little different plant architecture in that canopy and have two different types out there to cover some different strengths and weaknesses one over the other and have fantastic grazing with both. And again, you could start grazing when it gets about knee high, uh, and have a rotation set up and and it's going to be tough for some guys to gauge, well, how many grazing days am I going to have here? 20 acres, 40 acres, 60 acres. What's it going to take for my herd or the group that I have to get through? You're going to have to kind of figure out some dry matter tonnage and some consumption rates so you can figure out what that looks like. But that's a little bit up to you and your area. Guys in the north, it's going to grow a little slower. Guys in the south is going to grow fast with the heat as long as you have moisture. So you're going to have to play with that a little bit. The other thing that we discussed would be grazing through the fall. We're all very well aware that we have a phenomena actually with very short, rapidly growing sorghum and extreme stress, and in the fall when we have a frost called prussic acid. Sorghum produces a compound called durin, and when that durin has there's a problem in the cells and the cells rupture, then that durin gets mixed and we get basically cyanide gas. There's kind of a dark hole following some of that science of how long it lasts, exactly when it's going to happen, when can we turn back in, but we have a little bit of a solution. So thank goodness, and we talked about this in our call yesterday too, so the hybrid pearl millets that we sell, and we have one called 4613 that's going to be a BMR hybrid pearl millet, and a 4507 that's conventional. They do not produce prussic acid or the durin compound. So hybrid pearl millets would be safe to graze through extreme drought stress. You could graze it a little earlier as long as the cows aren't pulling it out of the ground. And then this whole thing about grazing in the fall, when we have these frost events and we don't know, should we take them out? Should we put them back in? Is it safe yet? It's been 7 days. Yeah, but the guy said 10. Is it 14 days? Pearl millet, you can graze through that. Now, the new thing that we're going to talk about that I'm really excited to share also is that today in the industry, there is sorghum products, a sorghum sedan grass that's prussic acid free, or it does not produce the durin compound. So my suggestion to the gentleman would be, hey, take one of those fields, plant it with a mixture of hybrid pearl millet and the new prussic acid-free sorghum sedan grass, and have that planned in your mind that if you want to cut it early, graze it early, but you need to take one harvest off of it. So let's say we get planted June 1st. We probably should take one harvest off of it about July 15th, so give you 30 to 40 days. It'd be a really nice crop. Then by the time this frost comes, you'll have from July 15th to August 15th, that's 30 days. September 15th is another 30 days. You might have, maybe you get to graze it twice in there. But really, you want to stage that so you have some really good growth right about whenever your frost comes. And so maybe you want to stage it so you have September 15th at about 60 inches or so, because you don't know when that frost is going to come. But if it's normally about October 1st through the 15th, you got a little bit of an idea or a window. What I'm going to tell you I don't want to see is somebody to take a field that they say, hey, I'm going to put this prussic acid-free sorghum sedan grass, some pearl millet in it. I'm going to plant it June 1st, but I'm not going to touch it until October. That stuff is going to put a head on and stop growing vegetatively in about 50 days, 60 days. So June 1st to July. So by August 1st, it's done. So you really need to take a cutting off of it once and then utilize the regrowth for that fall grazing, because otherwise you're basically wasting 60 days worth of season on that crop by planting it early and letting it go straight through. So I hope that made sense to everybody. But today we have a prussic acid-free sorghum sedan grass that we call Honeysweet PAF. So Honeysweet is a conventional, and it is prussic acid free, hence the PAF. Okay, so Honeysweet PAF at the Cropland brand, mixed in there with some hybrid pearl millet like 4507 or 4613 would be a fantastic piece in my mind to get you some excellent fall grazing, carrying capacity, summer grazing, carrying capacity, even out through fall. Some of these guys, again, are going to stockpile and graze some of these agricultural fields, if you will, all the way through the winter. Another thing we talked about doing is if you have some irrigation, and some of this is going to be on some irrigated ground, so they know they're going to get production. They're going to take some corn out of production this year to run cows. The other thing might be this that I think is kind of a cool deal, and guys have been doing it with cover crop scenarios in standing corn, in standing soybeans for years now. But we get out there and we get a really good graze going on in September. Go blow on or spread some triticale, winter wheat, winter rye, whatever it is. I'm a triticale guy, by the way, so that's my gig. Spread some triticale on as you're grazing, that grazing scenario right after you spread the triticale. Give it a run with the water, and let those cows walk that triticale in the ground and water it in a little bit. So you've got now another crop started for maybe some late fall grazing. And obviously, you'll surely have some grazing in the spring right away when there's nothing else going on. So then you can just start that cycle all over again. But this is Jeff Jackson, the Forage Fanatic, on a Forage Friday here at the compound in Missouri, talking to you about cow chow. And I would love to see, this spring grazing going on with oats or a blend of some cereal grains. Get your warm season annuals in when the soil's about 60, 65 degrees. And that first crop will give you time to do that. Then we're going to take that thing, and in about 30 days or so, we're going to start grazing it. We're going to take that thing all the way through summer into fall, maybe through the winter if you have enough stockpiled out there in different scenarios. Get that winter cereal grain started in that September, early October timeframe if you can, so you can maybe get some grazing out there. But wanted to talk to you all today and throw that out there. Get your brains rolling a little bit. Talk with your local agronomist. Get yourself some cropland cow chow on order, and you all have a great day. It's Jeff Jackson, the Forage Fanatic.